A black man is stopped by the police while driving a fancy car. The officers quickly approach him and start asking questions, clearly assuming he doesn't belong in the area. One officer asks, "Where did you get this car?" with a tone that suggests they think he stole it. They don't believe a man like him should be driving such an expensive vehicle. The man stays calm and explains that the car is his, but the officers don't believe him. They keep questioning him, looking for something to accuse him of. They don't stop, not giving him a chance to explain further. The tension is thick as the man stands quietly, just waiting for the situation to be over. Then, when they check his information, the officers' faces change. They realize who he really is. The man they were treating like a criminal is actually the new police chief. The officers can't believe what they've just discovered, and the mood shifts completely. What happens next will leave everyone stunned. Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments below. A cop pulls up behind a luxury car, its sleek black exterior shining in the sun. The officer immediately gets out of his vehicle and walks up to the driver's side. Without any greeting, he taps on the window, his face hard with suspicion. "Step out of the car," the officer orders sharply. The black man inside the car looks up, surprised but calm. "What's going on, officer?" he asks. "You're driving a car like this, and I don't think you own it." The cop responds, his tone accusing. "Step out now." The man hesitates but opens the door. "I'm just on my way. There's no reason to—" "I said, step out!" The officer interrupts, his hand moving to his belt as he prepares to make the arrest. The man, still in control, steps out of the car slowly, his hands raised to show he's not a threat. The second officer joins and they start questioning him about the car. "Where'd you get this car? Who's it registered to?" The man stands still, his calm voice now matching the officer's hostility. "It's mine. I don't need to explain this, but I'm not hiding anything." Ignoring his words, the officers begin searching through the car, opening the glove box, and going through his personal items. "I don't believe you," one of the cops mutters under his breath, clearly judging the man based on nothing but his appearance. Then, the second officer looks down at his phone and stops in his tracks. His eyes widen, and he shows the first officer something on the screen. "Wait a second. It can't be." The first officer leans over, taking a closer look. His face shifts from suspicion to shock as he realizes the man they just treated like a criminal is actually someone much more important. You're him?" The man looks at them, no longer hiding his calm. "I'm the new director of your department, and I think we need to talk." The tension from the last moment hangs in the air as the first officer stares at his phone screen, the realization sinking in. "Wait, you're really him?" The officer's voice trembles with disbelief, his earlier confidence slipping away. The man, still standing tall and calm, looks at both officers with a steady gaze. "I'm the new director of your department. We have a lot to discuss," he says, his voice firm and composed. The second officer quickly glances between his partner and the man, confusion and guilt written all over his face. "But how? Why didn't you say anything?" he asks, struggling to reconcile the man in front of him with the suspicion he just placed on him. "I didn't have to," the man responds. "But now you'll have to explain to me why I was treated like this, simply because of the car I drive." The first officer stammers, suddenly feeling the weight of his actions. His mind races as he tries to piece together what's happening. "We thought you didn't look like someone who could afford it," he says, his voice faltering. The man looks at him, his expression now hardening with the knowledge of how quickly things escalated. "You judged me based on nothing more than how I looked. That's the issue here, isn't it?" The air is thick with silence. The second officer finally breaks the quiet, lowering his head in shame. "We messed up, sir. We just didn't expect this." The new director gives a small nod. "No, you didn't. But now we're going to make sure this never happens again. There's a brief pause as the officer on the phone, still stunned, continues to scroll through his screen, trying to verify the man's identity. Finally, he looks up, now completely defeated. "I'm so sorry. We didn't mean for things to go this far. The director raises a hand to stop him. "You didn't just do this to me. You did this to every single person who walks into this department and gets treated based on assumptions. It's time for a change, and you two just learned why." With one last glance at the officers, the man begins to turn away, making it clear that he's not just leaving the scene, but bringing about a shift in the way things operate. "Let's make sure this never happens again," he says, his words ringing out with authority. The officers stand there, speechless, understanding the gravity of what has just unfolded. As they watch the new director walk away, they know their careers and the culture within the department have just changed forever. The last officer's hands still tremble as the realization sets in. "Sir, are you really the new director of the department?" The officer stammers, unable to believe what's unfolding. The man stands tall, his expression a mix of calm authority and disappointment. "Yes," he replies, his voice steady and unwavering. "And now I'm here to make sure something like this never happens again." The officers stand frozen, staring at the man who had just moments ago been arrested in front of them. The second officer, his face red with embarrassment, looks down at his shoes, unable to meet the man's gaze. "We didn't know. We just assumed." The director cuts him off. "That's the problem, isn't it? You made an assumption based on how I looked. You didn't stop to think, to ask, or to treat me with respect. You assumed that a person who drives a car like mine had to be doing something wrong." The silence hangs in the air, heavy with the weight of their mistake. "We thought the car was stolen, sir." The first officer mumbles, trying to explain himself. "You're right. We didn't take the time to check. But how were we supposed to know?" The director's gaze hardens. "You weren't supposed to know. You were supposed to treat me with the same respect you give everyone else, no matter who they are or what they drive." The second officer steps forward, his voice apologetic. "We've made a huge mistake. We'll do better. We promise." The director takes a deep breath, glancing at both officers. "I hope so, because it's not just me you've wronged. It's every person who walks through this door and gets treated like this because of their race, their clothes, or the car they drive." The first officer looks down, guilt written all over his face. "We're sorry, sir. We never meant for this to happen." The director nods once, his expression softening just slightly. "Apology accepted. But this has to go beyond words. I'm here now to make sure it changes." The officers exchange uncomfortable glances, realizing they've just witnessed the beginning of something bigger. The director gives them one last look before walking away, leaving them to face the consequences of their actions. As he exits the scene, the officers are left to reflect on the profound shift that is about to take place in their department. They know this is just the beginning. This moment, this mistake, has set the stage for an overhaul that could change the way the entire force operates. The sound of footsteps echoes through the hallway as the new boss walks confidently toward the office door. The officers who had been responsible for his unjust arrest stand awkwardly behind him, their eyes downcast, feeling the weight of their mistake. As the director opens the door to the briefing room, the two officers follow him, still unsure how to make amends for their actions. The room falls silent as the officers step inside, the director's presence commanding everyone's attention. "Gentlemen," the director begins, his tone measured yet firm, "we have a lot to talk about." He gestures for the officers to sit. "What happened out there was unacceptable. But let's be clear, I'm not here to tear you down. I'm here to help you learn from this." The officers exchange uncertain glances, feeling the gravity of the situation. One officer, looking particularly uncomfortable, shifts in his seat. "Sir, We messed up. We acted without thinking, without considering that someone like you could be a member of this department. The director leans forward, meeting their gaze. That's exactly the problem. You made assumptions based on my appearance. You assumed because I was driving a luxury car, I was somehow a threat or doing something illegal. He pauses, letting the words sink in. That kind of thinking has no place in law enforcement, and it certainly doesn't have a place in this department. The officers nod in agreement, but one of them hesitates. We're sorry, sir, but we've never been taught how to handle situations like this. We were just doing our job, trying to keep the peace. The director's voice softens, but there's no mistaking the authority in his words. The job isn't just about keeping the peace. It's about justice, fairness, and respect for everyone, regardless of their race, status, or the car they drive. I'm here to teach you what it means to treat people with dignity. He leans back in his chair, pausing for a moment. I've been where you are. I know what it's like to be on both sides of the badge. But that doesn't mean we can let our biases slip through. We can't afford to let something like this happen again. The officers are silent, listening intently. The director continues, starting today, we're going to implement new training programs for the whole department. There will be no more assumptions. Everyone is to be treated equally with respect, and I will be here to ensure that's the case. The officers exchange a look, and one finally speaks up. We understand, sir, and we're ready to learn. The director nods. Good, but remember, this isn't just about the two of you. It's about everyone in this department. It's about creating a culture where everyone feels safe and respected, no matter who they are or where they come from. The silence that follows is filled with reflection. The officers know they've just been given a chance to change, to grow. The director stands up, signaling the end of the conversation. Let's get to work. As the officers leave the room, the sense of transformation is palpable. They know they've been given a new understanding of their roles. They have a responsibility, not just to enforce the law, but to ensure justice for all, no matter their background or appearance. The scene ends with a quiet but powerful reminder that change is possible, even in the most entrenched systems, and that the responsibility to make that change begins with every individual in the department. The officers sit in the briefing room, the tension palpable. They know that their actions have just set in motion a process that could change the way they approach their work. The director, their new boss, stands in front of them, his gaze steady and full of expectation. Gentlemen, he begins, his voice calm but firm, we've had a conversation about bias, about assumptions, and about fairness. But now it's time to put those words into action. The officers shift uneasily in their seats, each one clearly aware of the weight of what's being discussed. One officer, looking especially uncomfortable, speaks up. We really didn't think before acting, sir. We just saw the car, assumed things, and acted on that. The director nods, acknowledging the honesty but also reminding them of the problem. That's the issue. You didn't think about the person behind the car. You didn't see the man, his background, or the reality of his life. You only saw a luxury car and made a judgment call. He takes a step forward, his tone intensifying slightly. And that's what we're going to change here. This department is not just about enforcing laws. It's about treating every individual with respect, no matter where they come from or what they drive. You'll be expected to embody this in every interaction you have, and I will hold you accountable to that. The room is quiet, the officers fully aware of how their behavior has just shifted the dynamic within the department. They are no longer just following orders. They are now a part of something bigger. Do you understand? The director asks, his gaze sweeping over the room. Yes, sir, one officer responds, his voice filled with regret. We should have handled it differently. We're committed to learning and improving. The director's face softens, but his message is unwavering. It's not just about improvement. It's about transformation. The work you do has an impact, and that impact should always be positive. I will be watching, and I will ensure that we stay on track. Another officer, still looking somewhat uncertain, asks, "But, sir, what about the community? What can we do to show them we've learned from this?" The director pauses, considering the question. "It's simple. We will start by being transparent. You will engage with the community openly, honestly, and with a focus on understanding. Your actions going forward will be the real measure of how committed we are to change." The officers exchange glances, understanding that this is more than just a lesson learned in the confines of a room. They will have to show the community that they are ready to lead with integrity and fairness. "We will organize community outreach programs," the director continues. "This will be a way for us to engage with residents, hear their concerns, and, most importantly, show them that we are working to rebuild trust. Every interaction from now on should reflect that change." The officers nod, the realization of their responsibility settling in. The director's voice carries a finality that leaves no room for doubt. "This is the beginning of a new chapter. We will rebuild the community's trust, one step at a time, and it starts with each one of you." As the meeting ends, the officers stand up, the weight of the conversation still hanging in the air. They know that this is just the beginning of a long journey. The road ahead won't be easy, but it will be necessary. Their actions will speak louder than their words. The director watches them leave the room, his expression resolute. He knows that change isn't just about giving orders. It's about showing up every day with respect and accountability. The work to restore faith in law enforcement has only just begun, and it will take time. But with a new approach, the department can start to heal. The sun is beginning to set as the officers finish their shift meeting. The air is tense with the weight of the change that has been coming for months. The meeting room is quiet as their supervisor, a no-nonsense type, finishes giving them their orders for the day. There's a moment of silence, a heaviness in the air. Something is different. "Today is the day everything changes," the supervisor announces, looking over the group. "We have new leadership, and it's time for each one of you to prove that you can uphold the standards we're all expected to follow." The officers exchange uncertain glances, but they nod in acknowledgement. They know what the implications are. The department had promised that they were under new management, and now it was time to meet their new boss. But they didn't know exactly what to expect. As the officers disperse, heading to their assigned patrol cars, a call comes in over the radio. "Suspicious vehicle, luxury car, downtown area, officers needed." Without hesitation, they drive toward the location, nerves starting to kick in. The conversation from earlier lingers in their minds. "Prove yourselves. Do what's right." When they arrive at the scene, they spot the luxury car parked on the side of the road. Its sleek, polished surface glints under the dimming sun. The officers approach with their usual caution, assuming that the car might have been stolen or perhaps involved in some illegal activity. A couple of them exchange looks. They're ready for another routine check. The man standing beside the car catches their attention. He's wearing a sharply cut suit, his posture straight and calm. He doesn't look like the usual person they deal with on a stop like this. He stands tall, his arms crossed, waiting for them to approach. One of the officers, trying to assert control over the situation, steps forward. "Excuse me, sir? Is everything okay here?" The man looks over at the officer and smiles slightly. "Everything's fine," he replies in a calm, measured tone. "But I could ask the same of you." The officer pauses, not expecting a response like that. This is different from any routine traffic stop or suspicious vehicle check he's used to. Still, he doesn't back down. "Can I see your ID, please?" the officer asks, voice slightly firmer now. The man doesn't seem perturbed. He simply reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out a business card, handing it over. "I think you'll find that I'm the one who should be asking for your identification." The officer glances down at the card, and his eyes widen slightly as he reads the name and title. "This doesn't make sense," he mutters, more to himself than anyone else. He looks at the other officers, whose faces are now showing confusion. This is the new boss? The man looks them over, his expression unchanged, still calm, but now slightly amused. "Yes, I'm the one you've been hearing about." For a moment, the officers stand in stunned silence. They have no idea how to react. Just hours ago, they'd been told about the changes in the department, and now here they were, face to face with the man who was going to be overseeing them from now on. The officer who had initially approached the man clears his throat, visibly uncomfortable. We didn't expect this. We thought you were just another person to stop." The man's eyes narrow and he takes a step closer. "Is that so? You assumed that because of the car?" The officer looks guilty now, knowing he's been caught in the wrong. The other officers seem uneasy too. They hadn't made any assumptions about the man at first, but they knew the assumptions were already being made in their heads when they saw the expensive car. The man continues, now shifting the power dynamic. "It seems you've judged me based on my appearance, my car. What kind of officers would you be if you allow that kind of behavior?" The tension grows as the officers fidget, the silence between them growing heavier. They don't know what to say. The realization hits them hard. This isn't just any civilian they've stopped. This is their new boss, the one they'll answer to from here on out. "I think we need to have a conversation about how things are going to be different around here," the man says, his tone now more serious. "I've seen how things have been handled in the past, and let me be clear. Respect is the foundation of this department. Starting today, everyone will be treated fairly. No more assumptions." The officers look at each other, their faces flushed with embarrassment. They hadn't expected to be called out like this, not by someone they thought would just be another civilian. But the truth was, they had learned a harsh lesson. Their actions today, based solely on assumptions, had been an example of what not to do. The man looks at them again, his posture still relaxed, but his eyes piercing. "I've been in your shoes. I know how hard this job is. But if you're going to work for me, there's one thing I expect from you more than anything: equality." One of the officers, still somewhat shocked, mutters, "We understand. We're sorry." The man gives a small nod as if accepting their apology, but he's not finished yet. "And you can start by remembering that appearances don't tell the full story. People aren't their cars, their clothes, or their skin color. We all have to do better." With that, the man turns toward the luxury car and steps inside. The officers stand frozen, their minds racing. They've been handed a profound lesson in respect and fairness, and now they must learn to apply it every day. As the car drives away, the officers remain standing on the street, their heads hanging low with the weight of their mistake. They now know that the true measure of a person is in their actions and character, not in assumptions based on superficial things. This was a wake-up call. The new boss had set the tone, and it was time for the department to change. The officers froze. The luxury car they had just stopped turned out to belong to their new boss. The realization hit hard. What they thought was a routine traffic stop turned into a powerful lesson about assumptions, race, and power. The man in the car wasn't just another wealthy driver. He was the one who would soon be leading them, holding them accountable for their actions. The moment was a turning point. As the man calmly told them who he was, they could see the shift in their behavior. They had wrongly judged him, but now they were faced with a new reality, one where their assumptions and biases had no place. They were left standing in silence, realizing their mistake. The following week, the man they had wrongfully stopped, now their boss, entered the precinct. He wasn't just a leader in title, but in action. As he stepped into the station, he exuded authority, not through force, but through respect and calmness. His arrival had a profound impact on the officers. During the briefing, he addressed them directly. "I'm not here to make your lives harder, but I am here to make sure we do our jobs with fairness, integrity, and respect. It's not just about enforcing the law. It's about upholding dignity for everyone we encounter." The officers, once caught off guard by their previous actions, now listened intently, recognizing the need for change. Their leader wasn't just focused on the job, he was focused on their growth and the betterment of the entire department. As the day continued, their new boss spent time talking to officers, sharing his own experiences and lessons learned. He encouraged them to be better, to hold themselves accountable, and to ensure that no one in their community was judged unfairly. And at the end of the day, he left them with a challenge. What will you do to ensure we do better tomorrow? The silence that followed was filled with reflection. The officers understood the importance of their actions moving forward. They weren't just changing how they served their community. They were changing as individuals, learning to view their job through a lens of respect, fairness, and equality. The next morning, their new boss arrived early. He was present, involved, and determined to lead by example. The officers knew things were going to be different. No longer would they make assumptions based on appearances. They had learned their lesson, and now it was time to act on it. With the lessons from their new boss guiding them, the officers felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were ready to face the challenges ahead, no longer burdened by their past mistakes, but motivated to create a better future for themselves and those they served.